Thank you for joining us here at MJ's Quiet Corner. I've got some very special guests here with me today to discuss their book, Love Tenderly, Sacred Stories of Lesbian and Queer Religions.
So let me just tell you a little bit about the book.
Yeah.
This book was something that was dreamed of by the 23 authors in the book for quite some time. And that each of the authors wanted to share their own stories of their journey in coming to acknowledge and accept who they are, as lesbian and queer women. And they had talked about a book. There had been a previous book written many years ago. And there was always a hope or a dream. And Janet can certainly talk about this because Janet's been in this for a long time, much longer than I have. But there was always a hope, or that this book could finally happen. And I was lucky enough to be in a conversation with another sister, and we kind of came up with an idea of how to make it happen, which was to let the authors write their own story. We gave them questions, which are in the book, to reflect on, and then the idea was for them to share their story in their own voice. And then, we started recruiting folks and came up with 23 people, which was a pretty great number, considering what we thought we were going to get, which would be like 4. So it was, and we have a listserv that we are all on, and that's a great way to stay connected with everyone. And we're all generally connected also through the publisher, New Ways Ministry. I did invite Sister Janine Gramick, but she had another commitment. She's actually the founder of New Ways Ministry. And the authors have met through retreats as well. There's been a number of retreats through the years. So it's a long-standing relationship, I would say. Some are new, like myself, to the group, and then others are more seasoned with one another. They've been walking this journey together for a long time.
Wow.
So the goal was to be able to put this collection of stories together and kind of collectively share it with the world, where, one of the other authors has often spoken about, having to make this proclamation about herself by herself was kind of nerve-wracking. But when she joined 23 people and we all did it, there was that, you get extra courage out of the experience of being with one another. And we stay connected with one another. We meet monthly, and so we're often, in conversation with each other. So the book grew out of a long time dream, basically, that kind of finally came to reality in last December, I guess it was.
Wow, yes. That is amazing. And it's so awesome how you guys have been together throughout the same journey, throughout the same experiences, encouraging each other. That must have been a dynamic way to stay alive, because a lot of people, I think, they actually they fade away because they have no community.
Yeah. Janet, Diane?
Yeah.
Diana, what do you think?
This is Janet, and I'll say a few things that come to my mind now. I think, Michelle, it's best to think of this as talking about our own experience. And I'm sometimes described as the matriarch or the grandmother of this group because I came out earlier than them. My journey of coming out began in the early 1980s.
Wow.
Before you were born, I'm sure. And one thing that I think is very unique about the book is that it presents 23 very different human beings, and each person's story is unique to her, although when you read through the whole book, there are common threads, I think, about our experience that are woven through the book. But as it's probably been difficult for you in different ways to come out, I think our position as religious women in the Catholic Church has not been an easy path either. You know, we've met with lots of, you know, questioning, wondering why we need to talk about this if we're celibate people, you know, who take a vow of chastity. So, you know, there's just a lot to say. Maybe another thing I could say, one thing we decided when we knew the book was going to be published was that we would do interviews together rather than just, you know, somebody calling up and say, oh, I'd like to talk to somebody, and just have one person. And I think that has been a real gift. I know it's been a gift to me because my first reaction to things is often fear. You know, no, I don't want to do that. I'm afraid to. But I think we've been real supports for one another in different ways as we've, you know, walked through this journey and been interviewed. I don't know, maybe some of us have done interviews by ourselves, but I think 99% of them have been a little group of us. You know,
let me ask you a question. No, okay. Who you're the person, Miss Janet, who started this, correct? No. Who started it?
Well,
who started the book?
Yes. Whose idea was it? I'm sorry, that's my question. Whose idea was the book?
Well, another sister who actually wrote in the book under a pseudonym, so we can't name her. But she had, I guess there had been an ongoing conversation and a dream to make it happen. And she and I are in the same congregation. So we actually had a conversation at one of our congregation meetings about it. And I said, I had done my dissertation work on the experiences of LGBT college students.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so I said to her, I think I know how we can finally make this book happen. You know, let's follow the same kind of approach that I took with my dissertation. Let's let folks tell their own stories.
Right.
And it grew out of that conversation. And then we started reaching out to folks. And I mean, we emailed them, we called them, we created a video inviting them. We did everything but show up at their door to get them to join us. And obviously we wore down 23 people because they decided to be part of it. But it really came out of that conversation, you know, because we had talked about it for years. We really want to do this. We really want to do this. And it was just a chance conversation at a congregation meeting when I said, you know, I think I know how we can do this. I think we just need to let folks write their own stories.
Right.
And really just put it in their own voice. And so it kind of grew out of that. And then we reached out to New Ways Ministry, Sister Janine Gramick, and said, you know, would you ever serve as the publisher on this? Because we wanted to be careful about the publisher. Because the previous book, it kind of got taken over by the publisher, and it didn't go as well as I think. I mean, it's a great book, but it just really, it was a problem, I think, dealing with that particular publisher. So we knew we weren't dealing with them. But New Ways is kind of the common thread with everyone. So why not have New Ways be the publisher for this? And it was a dream of Sister Janine's to finally get this book off the ground. So here we are.
Right. Now let me ask you ladies a question, and anybody can answer this question. As far as being a sister in the Catholic Church and being queer, how has that combination of difference affected your relationship with and to God?
I'll start answering that for a moment. For a long time, it wasn't even part of me. My identity wasn't even part of me, my queerness. So of course I didn't bring it to God because I was, just wasn't aware of it or wanted to be aware of it. I was fortunate to be part of the Catholic Church after Vatican II Council, which was in the early 60s. And I say that because the church really began opening up. So I, growing up, got more and more messages that God is love and God is good. we're not so bad people than maybe previous generations received from the church. So that really helped form me in my relationship with God as I came to understand my queerness, and then being called to religious life and putting that together. I didn't suffer intense or harsh kind of shaming that maybe other people have experienced. But I also knew I didn't fit in. And so I didn't make a big deal about it, but I didn't fit in until through the years I've worked through that and have come to love myself, who I am, and know God loves me as I am. So maybe a little bit of that answer for you.
Yes, that was a great answer. What about you, Miss Rapazzo?
Well, for me, I knew that I was different when I was a junior high student. Didn't understand it. And I always felt from 6th grade on that I was being called to religious life. And so throughout the years, that call was stronger than feeling not good enough, because of the feeling I had as being different, liking girls, you know. So anyway, I did enter. And it was 2.5 years of training. And a lot of us religious, you know, went through the training. And whenever it came to the vows, especially the vow of chastity, we were just told never to be in twos. And they called it PFs, which was particular friendship. And I thought, God, that's what it's called, you know. That's what I am, you know, having a particular friendship. So I was always very nervous about being with just one other sister, as I think many of us were. Wow. So just before making my vows, I went through a very hard time thinking, am I worth it? And went into a depression for 2 months before vows. And then I decided I still felt called to religious life, and I made my vows, and that depression left me. And I felt I was in the right place. But struggled with this for until my 50th Jubilee. And I kept this journal that, an article in this journal by a Sister Tobias, who worked with lesbian sisters. And she wrote in the article that unless you come out to someone in your community, you will never have this feeling of belonging. And that really hit me, because I thought, wow, 50 years in the community and I don't feel belong. So I finally found the courage to speak to my president of my community, and her reception of my story was, I felt like she received it in such a sacred way. And from then on, and this was 12 years ago, she journeyed with me, and I could come out to more sisters in my community, to a group, a larger group, and then 2 smaller groups. And then I was able to have the courage to write the story under my name. And I'm getting positive feedback from my community members. So and that relationship with God has deepened.
Wow. The thing that hit me, what you recently said in the beginning of your statement, was even though I felt like I did not fit in, even though I didn't feel like I belonged, I was still called.
Yeah.
And so do you think, this is my question to all you ladies again, okay, here's another question. Do you think that developing a relationship with God requires an evolution outside of society, outside of societal norms or what's required of you. And it sounds like that's what happened to all of you. Like you had a calling and then you felt ashamed because of who you were, because you were different. But when you pressed through that shame into your calling, the depression left. That is the most powerful thing I've heard on this show thus far. Can anybody talk to that?
Yeah, I want to talk to that because, you know, for me, when I came out, I wrote a coming out story back in the 1980s. That was a talk given at a New Ways ministry. And the name of the talk was The Lost Coin. And I know, Michelle, you were looking for biblical connections here. Mm-hmm. The story in the gospel about the woman who lost a coin, and she swept her house all day until she found it. And then she invited her neighbors in to rejoice because she had found what was lost. And for me, that image very much fits my experience of coming out. You know, I felt like, for me, I did not know clearly when I was in my teens or any younger than that. It was when after I entered the community that I began feeling attracted to different women and wondering what this was inside of me. But when I finally did begin to come out, it was like, first, my acceptance of it was very intellectual. You know, yes, I could write about this in my journal, but certainly never talk to anybody about it. And then gradually I became more accepting, I think, of my own lesbian identity and could begin to really rejoice in it. And for me, the experience of beginning to come out to, you know, individual friends and sisters in my community really has felt like a grace-filled experience.
Wow.
You know, I feel like every encounter I had with another sister seemed to be a kind of a sacred encounter. It was, you know, we weren't praying together, we were talking about stuff, but you know, I think I benefited, and I think the other sister or the person with whom I was speaking also benefited. You know, it was like a mutual exchange of graces, you could say, maybe, that occurred. So, you know, and I honestly feel that every step that I've been able to take along the way has been a grace from God. So if I think about how my relationship with God has changed, I think I've come to know and accept much more deeply that God really does love me as I am. And that one other thing I'll tell you, and then I'll stop. When we make our final vows, we get a silver ring. And if we wish, we can have a motto inscribed on the ring. And the motto I chose was led by the Spirit. And when I chose it, you know, it hadn't been something that I had loved my whole life. In a way, I don't even remember why I decided on that in the end, but I feel like that's also been a guiding light for my journey. It's, you know, let the Spirit lead you, Janet. You know, the Spirit led me to be on this call with you.
Yes.
And each step along the way, when I stop and think about it, is, you know, the Spirit leading me, God guiding me, whatever words you want to put on that experience.
Wow, that's so rich. I think that it is graceful for God to put together a group of women who have a particular experience for a group of people who are so marginalized and discriminated upon, and to have such a sweet spirit behind the way you're talking about God inside of your queerness is a miracle to me. And what I want to know is, Grace, with your research or with the dissertation you did with the college students, is there anything that we can do as people who are, you know, professionals, people who are, making it through life and doing well, how we can help them. How do you help our community right now?
Listen, we actually recently had a conversation with a group of college students from one of the colleges near where I am, and you could tell when we started speaking with them that they were kind of timid. They all had their cameras off except for one, and their faculty meant facilitators because it was a gay straight alliance at a Catholic college, and they were very timid. And I had brought one of the authors in the book is her name is Mary Kay. There's two Mary Kays. Mary Kay Dubrovnik, if I can say her name right, which I can never do. But she forgives me for that. I said to her, but they're gonna, I can tell by the email exchange planning this, that there's gonna be a moment of silence when they wanna ask questions, but they're afraid. I said, so when that happens, I want you to jump in and start asking them questions. And sure enough, it happened. And it just blew open the conversation. The cameras all went on, and it just, and I have had follow-up emails from the girl student who's the student leader of GSA. And we just gave them an opportunity to be heard and to feel accepted. And I mean, it's a Catholic college, so for them to have a conversation with lesbian nuns, I think just kind of blew them away a little bit, because it was like, those aren't two things that Catholic college should usually put together.
No.
So, and that was a similar experience, with my dissertation when I engaged with, participants in my study was, I was very clear right out of the gate, listen, I am lesbian. So you're talking to family here.
Yeah.
And I think it just kind of diffused a lot of their nervousness. But just really give them an opportunity to be heard, to be supported. We offered, and I continue to get emails from the girl who reached out to me, just offer them support to walk with them, really. I still hear from those people who were in my study, and that was, I published in 2015. So here we are 6 years later, I'm still hearing from them, So it's just really that companioning, I think, is so important, and giving them an opportunity to know, I'm in my 50s. It was a journey. It will continue to be a journey. Some days will be easier than others, but I'm here to walk with you as others have walked with me, and I'm here to listen. And I think that's kind of a common thread among the authors, that we've all been blessed with someone who has journeyed with us, and now kind of paying it forward. That's generally what I would say, is just listen and be there and be visible, in any way that you can. Because I work on a college campus, so I make sure that I have all the visible symbols that say you are safe here, you are welcome here, and I walk with you. So,
Michelle, I want to underscore that what Grace just said. The witness, the ability to have a role model, I think, is one of the things that I struggled with for a lot of years, because I didn't know anybody was like me, a religious, wanting to stay in community and claiming my queerness and how to put it all together. So, part of the amazement in this book is that it offers role models. And the book that Grace referred to earlier, everybody, I think, what was it called? Lesbian Nuns Breaking Silence was the name of it. And almost everybody in that book eventually left their communities. So on the one hand, that was an okay book, but that's not where I was. That was not the kind of modeling I was looking for. So Grace, I think anything you can do, or any of us can do, to model to the young people, to anybody that's asking and listening, it is possible to put the opposites together, if you want to think of it as opposites.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yes. So I am really, really grateful for your time. I am really, really happy that you guys got on. I'm so excited to post this. Thank you again, ladies.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.